Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take, stacks of articles, notes, research, and try to boil it all down to the really important stuff, the key insights. Our mission today is to give you a shortcut, basically, to understanding a really interesting approach to business and maybe even life. It feels like common sense, but it often gets missed. We're digging into a book called The Goal, a process of ongoing improvement by Eliyahu Goldratt. And it's written like a novel.
Yeah, which is kind of unusual for a business book, right?
Totally. But don't let that fool you. It is absolutely packed with really deep, practical insights.
And what's fascinating is Goldratt himself, he says the book is an attempt to show we can use just a few basic assumptions to explain a whole lot of what happens in industry. And he does this brilliant thing. He weaves in this family life struggle.
Oh, yeah, the personal side.
Exactly. Which, a lot of managers probably feel that pressure. It makes it very human.
And you have to understand how he wants us to learn. He doesn't just give you the answers.
No, not at all.
He believes we only really learn through, deduction. Figuring it out. So he uses this Socratic way, right? There's this character, Jonah.
The physics professor, yeah.
Right. And Jonah just asks questions, provokes Alex, the main character, to think. He doesn't just spell it out.
Which means you, as the listener or reader, might actually figure things out before Alex does.
Yeah. It makes it really active, doesn't it?
It really does.
Okay, so let's get into it. Our story starts with Alex Rogo. He's a plant manager, and he's in deep trouble. Alex finds himself in just an incredibly tough spot. His boss, Bill Peach, basically lays down the law.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Turn the plant around in 3 months. 3 months. Or it gets shut down. Period.
Wow. How do you even start with that, especially when Alex himself admits things have only gotten worse since he got there?
Exactly. He's been there 6 months, and it's downhill. So the pressure is immense.
Rock bottom, basically.
And it's not just work. His obsession with the plant is, really hurting his family life. There's this scene where he promises his wife, Julie, dinner.
Yes.
And then a machine breaks down, and he just blows it off. You can feel the tension, the neglect.
It really shows the personal cost, doesn't it? And later, his daughter Sharon, just waiting by the window for him.
Oh, that's heartbreaking. Shows how it hits the kids, too.
It really highlights how interconnected it all is, Professional stress bleeding into personal life. His focus is just survival mode for the plant.
Yeah, survival at almost any cost, it seems.
Yeah.
So things are looking grim, but then a chance encounter. Alex bumps into an old physics professor, Jonah, at an airport.
Right, the mentor figure arrives.
And this meeting, it really changes everything. Jonah, immediately suspects something's really wrong at the plant, even though Alex is trying to downplay it, just a few problems.
Yeah, Alex is in denial mode. And Jonah hits him with this challenge right away. He says, basically, your measurements, they're wrong. Definitely wrong.
He floors Alex, right? He kind of admits, well, sometimes we massage the numbers.
Yeah, a little creative accounting, maybe.
But Jonah insists, no, it's more fundamental.
Yeah.
Your whole thinking about productivity is flawed. And then Jonah asks that key question, seems so simple. What is productivity?
And Alex struggles. He goes straight to the company jargon, the formulas.
Right, the standard stuff.
But Jonah pushes back. No, what do you think it is?
And Alex finally lands on, I guess it means I'm accomplishing something.
And Jonah says, exactly. But accomplishing something in terms of what? That's the kicker.
Yeah. But what leads to the bigger question?
What's the goal? The real goal of any company. Jonah says there's only one. Doesn't matter what they make or do.
One goal.
One goal. And then he defines productivity. He says it's any action that brings the company closer to its goal. That's productive. Anything else isn't.
Simple, but profound.
And he follows up with, productivity is meaningless unless you know what your goal is.
So Alex throws out, increasing efficiency. That's a goal, right?
And Jonah shoots that down. Nope, that's not the goal. Your problem, Alex, is you don't know the real goal. It's not just making stuff efficiently, it's something else.
And eventually Alex has this breakthrough. It hits him. The goal, it's just to make money.
Seems obvious, right? Duh.
Completely obvious.
Yeah.
But somehow, all their actions, their measurements, their focus, it was all pointing somewhere else. It went against this simple common sense idea.
And Goldratt doesn't leave it vague either. He defines making money with 3 specific operational measurements.
Right, this is crucial.
First, throughput. That's the rate the system generates money through sales, not just production, but actual sales.
Okay, so money coming in.
Exactly. Second, inventory. That's all the money tied up inside the system. Raw materials, work in progress, finished goods sitting there. It's all cash tied up.
Got it. Money stuck inside.
And third, operational expense. That's all the money the system spends to turn that inventory into throughput. Labor, energy, supplies, everything else. Money going out to make things happen.
Throughput, inventory, operational expense, TI and OE.
Those become Alex's new compass. Everything needs to be evaluated against those three things. Does it increase throughput? Does it decrease inventory? Does it decrease operational expense?
Okay, so he has this new framework. But how does he really internalize it? That's where the hike comes in, right?
The Boy Scare hike. Yes. This is a brilliant piece of storytelling to illustrate some really core concepts. Alex gets put in charge of 15 kids on a 10-mile hike.
Sounds simple enough.
But it becomes this perfect living laboratory for two critical ideas: dependent events and statistical fluctuations.
Okay, break those down. Dependent events.
Just means one thing has to happen before the next can start. On the hike, one boy has to walk a piece of the trail before the boy behind him can walk that same piece. They're linked in sequence.
Makes sense. And statistical fluctuations.
That's just the natural variation. Each boy walks at a slightly different speed, sometimes faster, sometimes slower. They stop to tie a shoe, they get tired, they get a burst of energy. It fluctuates.
Gotcha. Normal variability. So Alex is at the back, trying to keep an eye on everyone. And what does he see?
He sees the lines stretching out, gaps getting bigger and bigger between the kids. The troop is spreading out way more than he expected.
And he finds the slowest kid, Herbie.
Yep, Herbie. The fat kid, as the book describes him. He's trying hard, but he's just naturally slower. He's the bottleneck of the hiking troop.
So how do those two concepts, dependent events and fluctuations, play out with Herbie?
This is the key insight Alex has. Because of the dependency, a boy can only go as fast as the boy in front allows. But there's no limit to how slow he can go or how long he can stop.
So the faster fluctuations get dampened, but the slower ones...
They accumulate. It's not an averaging out. It's an accumulation of slowness down the line. Herbie, the slowest hiker, ends up controlling the speed, the throughput of the entire troop.
Wow. Okay, and Alex connects this directly back to the plant, right? The gaps between scouts.
That's like work-in-process inventory piling up, growing and growing.
And the slow overall speed of the hike, they're doing 1 mile an hour instead of 2.
That's decreased throughput for the whole system.
And the effort to manage it all, running back and forth.
That's increased operational expense. It mirrors the plant perfectly. T goes down, I goes up, OE goes up, all because of the bottleneck and the system dynamics.
So if this happens on a simple hike, imagine the impact inside a complicated factory.
Exactly. Where you might not even see the Herbies clearly because of how things are measured traditionally.
Okay, so the hike gives him this visceral understanding. But then he does the matchstick game during the picnic. What's that about?
Right, the match game. He's still wrestling with these ideas, especially the impact of fluctuations in a dependent system. He wants to test the common wisdom about manufacturing,
Which is?
the idea of the balanced plant. You know, try to make every step, every machine have roughly the same capacity as the demand, balance everything to keep costs down.
Sounds logical on the surface.
It does. So Alex sets up this game with bowls and matches. Each bowl represents a workstation, and they pass matches along. Rolling a die determines how many matches move each turn, simulating capacity. Critically, each bowl has the same average capacity, 3.5 matches per turn. A perfectly balanced system.
Okay, so what should happen?
Well, intuition says the output, the throughput, should also average 3.5 matches per turn.
What?
But it doesn't. After 10 turns, they've only moved 20 matches through the whole system, not the expected 35.
Whoa, way less. So like half the orders would be late in a real scenario?
Exactly. And he sees inventory, the matches piling up in the bowls down the line. The system gets further and further behind.
Wait, if it's balanced?
It's because of the fluctuations and dependencies again.
Yeah.
Think about it. If a bowl rolls low, say a 1 or 2, it falls behind. But if it rolls high, like a 6, it can't make up for past losses because the next bowl might have rolled low and isn't ready for 6 matches.
So the downstream constraint limits the upside.
Precisely. The positive fluctuations often get wasted, while the negative fluctuations, the low rolls, accumulate. There's no reserve capacity to catch up.
So the balance plan is actually a terrible idea.
Paradoxically, yes.
No.
In a system with dependent events and statistical fluctuations, trying to perfectly balance capacity everywhere guarantees lower throughput, higher inventory, and higher operational expense. You need some imbalance, some protective capacity.
Mind blown. Okay. So Alex gets back to the plant, armed with the hike insights, the match game proof. What does he do?
He knows he has to find his Herbies. find the bottlenecks.
Right.
He and his team dig into the data, observe the floor, and they identify two main ones, a machine called the NCX-10 and the heat treat department. These are the constraints holding everything back.
Okay, they found them. Now what?
Yeah.
How do you actually manage these bottlenecks effectively?
This is where Jonah gives Alex some very practical steps. It's the core of the theory of constraints, really. 5 focusing steps, though they kind of evolve organically in the story.
Step 1.
Protect the bottleneck. Quality control before it. Makes sense, right? If a bad part goes into the NCX-10 or heat treat.
You waste precious bottleneck time making scrap.
Exactly. Time lost on a bottleneck is time lost for the entire plant's throughput. You can never get it back. So they put QC right before those steps.
Smart. Okay. Step 2.
Never let the bottleneck be idle. Not for lunch breaks, not for anything if you can help it.
Keep it running constantly.
Yeah. Alex changes lunch rules, assigns dedicated people just to keep those areas running nonstop across all shifts. Again, an hour lost. There is an hour of plant throughput gone forever.
Got it. Maximize its uptime. 3rd step.
Offload the bottleneck. Find ways to take some of the burden off it. They get creative. They find some old mothballed machines as Megma and a couple others that can actually do some of the work the NCX-10 does, even if less efficiently.
So they reactivate old tech.
Yep. It adds about 18% more capacity to that constrained step. They also start sending some parts out to a vendor, outsourcing a bit of the bottleneck work. Anything to increase the bottleneck's effective capacity.
Okay. Using other resources, even less efficient ones, to help the constraint. Step 4.
Prioritize work for the bottleneck. Don't just feed it whatever comes next. Feed it the most important stuff first.
How did they manage that?
They created a simple tagging system. Red tags for urgent, overdue orders, green tags for everything else. Bottlenecks work only on red-tagged parts, oldest first. Non-bottlenecks work on red parts if they have them, otherwise green.
So the bottleneck is always working on the stuff that directly contributes to overdue shipments and immediate throughput.
Exactly. It aligns the entire plant's priorities around the constraint.
And the 5th step, you said it was a real breakthrough.
Yeah, this one came directly from the hiking analogy. Control material release based on bottleneck consumption.
Okay, what does that mean practically?
Remember how the scouts spread out? That's like pushing too much material into the system too early based on non-bottleneck capacity. It just creates huge piles of inventory waiting for the bottleneck.
Right, the waves of inventory.
So instead, they decide to release new raw materials into the plant only at the rate the bottlenecks can actually consume them, specifically for the high-priority red tag orders first.
So you're pulling based on the bottleneck's pace, not pushing based on the first step's pace.
Right.
Like tying a rope from Irby to the kid at the front of the line.
Exactly like that. It synchronizes the whole plant to the bottleneck's rhythm, preventing the massive inventory surges. They called it drum buffer rope later, but the concept is there.
Okay, those 5 steps. Protect QC, never idle, offload, prioritize feed, control release. That's powerful stuff.
Absolutely. And the results. They start seeing real changes. The plant starts making money again. Overdue orders start shipping. It's a genuine turnaround, focused entirely on managing the constraints.
But, I can still hear some managers thinking, but what about my other machines? I can't just let them sit idle. My efficiency numbers will tank.
That is the classic pushback, and Goldratt tackles it head on. Keeping non-bottlenecks busy just for the sake of being busy is, well, counterproductive if the bottleneck can't keep up.
Why?
Because all that activity just builds up work-in-process inventory that sits there, tying up cash, costing money, waiting for the bottleneck. It looks efficient locally, but it harms the overall system's goal making money through throughput.
So idle time at a non-bottleneck isn't necessarily bad.
It can actually be good. It means that part of the system has protective capacity. It's not gumming up the works. The goal isn't 100% utilization everywhere. It's maximizing throughput for the system, which means synchronizing everything to the constraint. Letting non-bottlenecks wait is part of that synchronization.
That really flips traditional thinking on its head.
Completely.
Okay, so the plan is improving, things are looking up, but then something shifts, right? The constraint isn't always a machine.
Exactly. As they get better and better at managing the NCX-10 and heat treat, their production capacity increases significantly. So much so that eventually they run out of orders to fill that capacity.
So the bottleneck moves.
To the market. They can make more than they can sell. They even start shipping orders early just to keep the machines busy, which is a huge red flag.
So if the machines aren't the problem anymore, what is?
This is where Alex and his team have another big realization. The real constraints, even initially, weren't just the physical machines. They were often the company's own policies and measurements.
How so?
Think about traditional cost accounting. It often incentivizes keeping all machines running to absorb overhead, even if it builds useless inventory. Or measuring managers purely on local efficiency, which discourages helping out the bottleneck.
Right, like Stacy, the materials manager.
Yeah, she was creating internal orders just to keep the bottlenecks busy, even without customer demand. Good intentions based on old rules, but it created a mountain of finished goods inventory and hid the fact the real constraint was now market demand.
So the rules themselves were the bottleneck.
Often, yes. The way they measured success, the policies they followed, those became the biggest barriers to actually making money. Which leads to that great quote.
Common sense is not common at all.
Exactly. The solutions seem so obvious afterwards, but getting there means challenging these really deep-seated assumptions and rules that everyone just accepted. The real constraints are often these abstract things, policies, paradigms, ways of thinking.
So having gone through all this, Alex and his team start thinking about how to make this improvement sustainable. How to keep finding and fixing constraints.
Right. They realize they need a process for ongoing improvement. This leads them to formulate those 3 fundamental management questions.
Which are?
What to change to, and how to cause the change.
Simple questions, but deep. Finding the core problem, designing the solution, and then implementing it effectively.
Yeah. Alex realizes Jonah didn't just give him fish, he taught him how to fish. The goal was for Alex and his team to become their own Jonahs.
To develop the thinking processes needed.
Exactly, to be able to. 1, find the real root cause, the core constraint, not just chase symptoms. 2, build and test solutions that work without causing new problems elsewhere. And 3, get people on board, implement change smoothly, generate buy-in, not resistance.
It's about building that capability for continuous improvement into the organization's DNA.
Precisely.
Now, okay, this is a great story, very compelling novel, but does this stuff actually work? Like in the real world beyond the book?
Oh, absolutely. The theory of constraints, TOC, has been applied successfully all over the place, way beyond just manufacturing plants. The evidence is pretty overwhelming.
Give some examples.
Okay, well, Dow Corning. A production team leader there used the goal directly. Took a plant from like 50% on-time delivery up to 90%.
Wow.
And get this, 85% reduction in cycle time, 70% less inventory. Huge impact.
Okay, that's impressive. What else?
General Motors. There's a story from a Cadillac plant. An engineer found a tiny bottleneck installing some fuzzy material. The operator had to stop the line for a minute every 5 cars because the material was stored too far away. Seriously, that was the bottleneck for the whole plant.
For that moment, yeah. They moved to supervisor's office, put the material closer, boom. Instant increase in the entire plant's output. And GM actually institutionalized that thinking across North America, even for designing new plants. Find those little constraints.
Amazing. Small change, huge leverage.
Then you've got Sikorsky Aircraft. In their repair division, they cut the turnaround time for tail rotor blades from 73 days down to 28 days.
3 months?
Yeah, in just 3 months. And slashed work-in-process inventory. That's complex stuff, helicopters.
And I love the Thomson Shore example, the book printer.
Oh, yeah, that's a great one. Because it was the VP of Finance who led the TOC implementation. You know, finance is sometimes seen as the barrier.
Right, the bean counters.
But here, finance drove it. They went from 70% to 95% on-time delivery, made the goal required reading for everyone. They even created new metrics like throughput contribution per press hour, ditching old cost world stuff.
That shows real commitment from the top and from an unexpected place. And it's not just manufacturing, it works in services too.
Like where?
An office supply company used TOC to completely change their market strategy, focusing on super fast delivery as their competitive edge by optimizing their internal processes.
Okay.
A Midwest bank streamlined its loan processes and even improved how they recruited financial advisors using TOC principles.
A bank. Interesting.
And even a hospital. They were facing a big budget shortfall, like 20%. They applied TOC, focused on patient throughput, getting diagnoses done, moving patients through smoothly, like a scientific process. Went from shortfall to profitability.
Treating patient flow as the system to optimize. Fascinating.
And maybe the most surprising, education. A middle school teacher, Kathy Sirkin, used the goal, specifically the hike part, to teach critical thinking and problem solving to her kids.
Teaching TOC to middle schoolers?
Yeah. Applying the concepts of constraints, dependencies, fluctuations to figure out conflicts or plan projects, it shows how universal these thinking tools really are.
That's incredible. So it really does translate. So wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway for you, the listener? Clearly, the goal and TOC aren't just factory manuals.
Not at all. It's a lens, right? A way to look at any complex system, your business, your team project, maybe even just managing your own time and tasks.
Seeing it as a chain.
With the weakest link. The system is only ever as strong as its constraint.
So the key question becomes,
where is your Herbie? What's the main thing holding back progress for you or your team or your company right now?
And it might not be obvious.
Almost certainly won't be obvious at first glance. You have to learn how to look, how to question the way things are done.
It comes back to challenging those assumptions, looking past symptoms to the real constraint, and having the courage to apply what often feels like, well, common sense once you see it.
Simple, but not easy.
Right. So the final thought to leave you with, what's one vital assumption, maybe one unwritten rule in your own work or life that might be holding you back right now, just waiting for you to question it?